POV Italian Cooking, where you see cooking from my point of view. In this episode, we're going to make duck ragu. Now, folks make duck ragu a little different way. A lot of folks will pan fry their duck. You'll hear a lot of folks just say, man, duck is really hard to cook. And you know what? It is. It's greasy. Can be greasy. You do have to cook it a certain way. I get around that because I roast my duck. I bake it in the oven. I am making this ragu at Christmas time, so I'm really making a double batch. I'm going to make 2 ducks. You'll see when I'm reviewing the ingredients that I'll say, with respect to the cans of tomatoes, that we're going to use 1, maybe 2 cans of the peeled tomatoes. Well, you'll see as the video progresses that we actually use two of the cans. I also, instead of using olive oil this time, I thought, I'm not going to use olive oil. I'm going to use the duck fat, and it made an incredible difference in flavor. So at any rate, I've talked long enough. Let's get to making this duck ragu. Okay, the number 1 ingredient in our duck ragu, of course, is duck. What I have here is 2 ducklings. They were about 5.5 pounds. What I've done is I've removed all the neck and the giblets. I've trimmed some of the fat and rinsed them and patted them down. So all we need to do is take our ducks, put them in our roasting pan. I went ahead, since I'm making this for Christmas, I went ahead and got a disposable roasting pan. Just kind of make things a little bit easier on myself as far as cleaning. Now, the next step is going to be drizzle these bad boys with olive oil. All right, that should be enough. So now we're just going to kind of massage that into our wonderful bird. The next step is to put salt and pepper on them. Now I am going to kind of grab these by the leg because I want to get a little bit of salt and pepper down here inside. Good healthy dose of salt and pepper. Now before I pop these in the oven, I am going to put a little bit more Baluchi olive oil. Just kind of drizzle it over them. Can never have too much olive oil, right? And this is a good one, this Baluchi stuff. Now, this goes in an oven just like it is, uncovered, at 350 degrees for about 2 hours. We're going to check on them, make sure they get done. So I am going to throw this in the oven, 2-hour timer. The alarm went off. It's been 2 hours. These things baked at 350 degrees. You can see they're starting to get a little bit of color to them. Now for this step, we let them rest. They cooked, now they get asleep. Once it's cool, all we're going to do is shred the meat. I am going to reserve the skin because I'm going to try something with the skin. I'm going to crisp the skin up and kind of use that as a texture on the ragu. But these beautiful birds, now just get to take it easy. We're going to let them cool for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Then I'm just going to shred them. So my duck had cooled down, and I went ahead and shredded both of them. As you can see, we got a pretty good bit of meat from those ducks. Man, they were fatty. The reason I made 2 ducks is because tomorrow's Christmas dinner. We're gonna have some family over, so I'm making a lot. I'm almost making 2 batches of this, but I think it's gonna be about 1.5. So let's look at the ingredients for our duck ragu. We're gonna use probably 3 cloves of this garlic, this pretty much the whole onion, 2 stalks of celery, 2 carrots. Now we're going to put these in the food processor because I want them small since this is going to be a ragu. We're going to use 3 or 4 sprigs of thyme, probably 4. We're probably going to need 1.5 cans of these tomatoes. Of course, we're always going to have a little bit of olive oil for our sofritto. And I got a bottle of Chianti here. We're probably going to use about 1 cup of Chianti. Now, I did reserve some of the duck fat because, boy, there's a lot of flavor in there. This is about 1/2 cup of duck fat. Now that I think about it, is when I'm doing the sofritto, I'm going to use this duck fat instead of the olive oil. I'm going to get this garlic ready, get the onion ready. When I come back, we're going to be in front of the food processor. Okay, what I've got in here is I've got my slicer, because what I like to do when I'm making a ragu or a bolognese is I like to really chop up my vegetables. I find out they chop better in the processor if I first run them through the slicer. So all you're going to do, turn your slicer on. I've got my slicer attachment in. Just going to drop her in the top, push her through. And we're going to go ahead and do that for all of our vegetables. Okay, I've got all my vegetables sliced. Now what I like to do is I've got my blade in, and now what I'm gonna do is just put in about half of these and then just chop them. Again, I like my vegetables in my ragu or a bolognese sauce to be kind of small. That's probably about enough. I guess I put about 1/3 of them in there. So, just put the top on the food processor and give it a pulse. Take a look. That is just about what we want. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of take my hand, scrape down the sides like so. Yeah, I want it just a tiny bit smaller than that. So let's get our top back on. Pulse, pulse, pulse. See our little pieces, that's exactly what you want for a ragu, or at least that's the way I like mine. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish the rest of these, then we'll be back. We are repositioned over to our stove. We are gonna start cooking. So what I'm gonna do, duck fat in the pan. Okay, our duck fat's getting hot, I can hear it sizzling and popping. So now we go in with our vegetables. Turn my heat down. Kind of taking this off the heat because I don't want this to burn my vegetables. Now I'm gonna let this cook for about 3 or 4 minutes. We want these to start to soften up. While our vegetables are getting done, I've got a can of our peeled tomatoes in the food processor. We're just going to pulse these a few times. There we go. We may end up needing that other can. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes. Our vegetables have been cooking away. Now I'm dumping in our garlic. Now I'm dumping in our thyme, and we just want this to kind of get fragrant. Woo, we can smell that thyme right now. Now I am going to add, I got a little bit more duck fat. It's a little dry down there. Just add just a tiny little bit more. Ooh, there we go. I'll tell you what, the smell of that duck fat and this sofritto is incredible. So now let this cook for about a minute. Okay, our veggies are cooking along really good. Now we are going to take our Chianti. Add about a cup, just eyeball it. If you get a little more in a cup, that's fine. You get a little bit less in a cup, well, you know what? You can add some later. Looks like it's about a cup. And when you think you have a cup, give it just a little bit more. All right, now we're going to let this cook for just a minute. We want to kind of wait for this alcohol smell to come off. So we're going to give this 3 minutes. Folks, I'm going to tell you, first time I made this duck ragu, this is the second time I made it. I used olive oil. Didn't save any of the duck fat after I got done roasting my duck. This time I have yet to put olive oil in yet, but the smell is so much better with that duck fat that we used kind of to cook our vegetables in. Now this has been cooking for about 3 minutes. It is time to add our tomatoes. Tomatoes are in the pool. We'll go ahead and scrape a little bit here. I'll scrape the rest of this out in just a second. We're just going to stir this in. I'm going to tell you right now, that second can of tomatoes is going to go in here. Now we take our duck. We put our duck in, and I can tell you also from looking at all that wonderful duck, we're going to need that second can of tomatoes. And thankfully, you know, I've got company coming over tomorrow. This is going to make a ton of ragu. Yeah, you can see how dry it is. So I'm going to add this. Going to get the second can of tomatoes ready. Probably going to put in a little bit more wine as well, since this was supposed to have just 1 can with the 1 cup of wine. Okay, I just put in a second can of tomatoes and about another half a cup of Chianti, and this is about what you want it to look like. This is awesome. So now I'm going to add salt and pepper. Got my salt and pepper in. So now we just got to let this simmer. We're going to let it simmer for about an hour. It is going to simmer covered. That simmering is going to bring all these flavors together. After about probably after 45 minutes, I am going to come back and check the flavor to make sure I've got all my seasonings right. I suspect I might need a little bit more time since I've got that second can of tomatoes in there. I'll probably hit it with a little more time soon. And you just got to let this simmer. You got to let this cook. Let that tinniness cook out of the tomatoes. This is going to be incredible. Cover it 45 minutes on simmer. Our ragu's been cooking for probably, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. See, it's looking really good. Got about another 40 minutes at least. You know, when I was shredding this duck, it had this wonderful skin on it. Do not waste this skin because you can use it to add a texture element to your plate. What we're gonna do is essentially what we're gonna make is duck skin cracklings. What I've got here is I took a cooling tray that we often use for cookies. I put some lining paper in the bottom of a baking tray. And all we're gonna do is we're just gonna lay this skin on here. It's got some pretty big pieces. We're gonna lay it fat side down, so as it bakes, the fat can just kind of bake away. And we're gonna cook this. We're gonna start at a half hour and check it. We're gonna bake it at 350 degrees for a half hour. Then we'll look at it. If it's not quite where we want it, then we'll probably put it in for another, 20 minutes or so. But anyway, don't overlap them, kind of lay them out. No reason to waste this wonderful crispy skin. I mean, if this were a KFC chicken, everybody'd be fighting over the skin, right? Okay, so we've got this laid out. Oven's preheating. This will go in for, we'll start 30 minutes. Duck ragu has been cooking, almost an hour and a half. I put a little more salt in it, some pepper, some more thyme. Actually, it was still missing something, so I came back with a little bit of ground red pepper flake. That did it. So I'm gonna let this cool. Now, I made this for our Christmas dinner, which is tomorrow. So I'm just gonna put this in the fridge and heat it back up. Nice quick way to save a little bit of time tomorrow. But before I do that, we'll get a little bowl of this and do a tasting. Now, for our duck cracklings, I took them back out after a half hour. They were nowhere near done. A lot of fat had rendered out. So I kind of cut them into thinner strips so they would cook a little more evenly. They're still going. It's been almost an hour. Here in about 6 minutes, it will be an hour. They should be done, and we'll look at those. So our duck skin just came out of the oven. I cooked this stuff for, an hour and a half. Flipped it over. It finally rendered all the fat out. Just gonna let this cool now. Now, what I'm gonna use this for is just a texture agent over top of either the duck ragu with tagliatelle or the duck ragu with over a polenta. I'm gonna make it 2 ways tomorrow. So that just has to cool completely. And then I'll probably let it cool more on a paper towel to try to draw out any moisture that's left in them. But that's it. Adds a good flavor to already a very tasty dish. So I've got my ragu done. Now I'm going to use that ragu for Christmas tomorrow. So what we'll be doing with it tomorrow is I have some tagliatelle, which for that kind of, you go stare at the camera. You stare at it like a crazy person, son. This is Scotty, my son, so he's just staring because he's not been on camera before like this. But anyway, we're going to use this ragu over a tagliatelle. And I am going to reserve some of it back because I'm also making a creamy polenta, and this goes so well over the creamy polenta. So tonight what we're doing is we're just having just a couple bites here because I don't think you've ever had my duck ragu before, have you?
I have not.
And the cat's meowing because he wants to be annoying. So.
It's good.
That's pretty killer, isn't it?
That's really good.
What's it taste like? Tell me what do you taste when you bite into it?
That duck, it just tastes.
Yeah.
It's really good.
You know what I did with it?
What?
I didn't use olive oil in this. I reserved some of the duck fat. And I'll tell you what, that made a difference, saving that duck fat. This is excellent.
It is.
So it's going to be even better tomorrow when we reheat it. Put it over some tagliatelle and put it over some creamy polenta. This is killer over creamy polenta. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Most importantly, click that subscribe button in YouTube. Merry Christmas and ciao. Say goodbye, Scotty.
Goodbye.
Scotty, stare at the camera again, Scotty. Thanks, everyone.